Hey everyone, happy Friday, Cinephile Mike here, and welcome back, or welcome for the first time to Oscar Rewind, my bi-weekly series of videos where I revisit films that reflect the earlier work of this past year's Oscar winners and nominees. As always, I'll be discussing the award season for the film, the box office information, the critical response, and as always, these reviews will be spoiler-free. You can find all older episodes here on the YouTube channel, or you can visit my website, cinephilemike.com, for older episodes and a lot of other great exclusive content. All right, so today, for day 46, I am going the musical of sorts route. Today, I am here to talk about 20th Century Fox's Phantom of the Paradise. Written and directed by Brian De Palma, the film was released in the fall of 1974. Now, for the box office information, I actually had to go to a few different sources. For those of you that have been with me, you know usually my resource for this is Box Office Mojo, and they posted that this film had a worldwide take of $2,245, all of which came from international markets. However, digging a little deeper, looking and reading through different articles on Variety that were cited through Wikipedia, the film actually had a Halloween opening weekend in 1974 where it made $18,455, and they stated that it ultimately ended its run with $250,000 from all major markets. So I'm going to approximate that the film sits worldwide with roughly maybe $252,000, somewhere around there. If I add all those numbers up, which is not really very successful, given that this had an operating budget, a reported budget, of $1.3 million. However, the film, ever since, has gained quite a cult following. And critically, the film performed well, with a critical score of 82% culled from 66 reviews, and an audience score of 84% culled from over 10,000 audience ratings. And how does a rock opera like this land on Rewind this season? Because I'll be honest, this was a film that I tracked down in doing my research. I hadn't actually heard of this film before. But the reason that it's there is for the film's lavish production design. Yes, this year, Jack Fisk celebrated his third Oscar nomination for Best Achievement in Production Design. This time for the sweeping Scorsese flick, and when I say sweeping, sadly not the awards, but the sweeping production and design and the landscapes of Killers of the Flower Moon. And I remember when I reviewed Killers of the Flower Moon during award season reviews, I was really floored by Fisk's work, and I talked about it. So, given that this was his very first production design credit 40 years ago, it just shows how strong Fisk's work has been, throughout his history. Now, this film predated the similarly styled Rocky Horror Picture Show, the movie version, by about a year. The play of Rocky Horror came first, but then Phantom of the Paradise, the film, came first. So one could argue there was some inspiration. We're not entirely sure. But that remains to be seen. Now, a fun fact about Phantom of the Paradise. For the true Oscar pundits, you know that this film is actually an Oscar nominated film. Paul Williams, who is also one of the stars of the film, was nominated alongside George Allison Tipton for Best Music, scoring original song score and or adaptation. Now, at this time, we currently at the Oscars have only two music nominations. We have Best Original Score and Best Song. But at the 1975 awards, when Phantom of the Paradise competed, there were actually three Oscar categories for music. The other two were Best Music Original Dramatic Score and Best Music Original Song. Ultimately, Phantom of the Paradise did lose the Oscar to The Great Gatsby. Williams was also nominated for Best Original Score at the Golden Globes, and De Palma was nominated by the Writers Guild of America for Best Comedy Written Directly for the Screen. The film was also nominated for Best Horror Film of the Year by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. So, what is this movie about? Well, Phantom of the Paradise is the story of Winslow Leach, played by William Finley. A lonely musician, he has crafted his opus, a concerto based on the story of Faust. And after playing it, famed music producer Mr. Swan, played by Williams of Death Records, decides that he will open his concert hall, the Paradise, with Winslow's piece. And he connives his way to steal it out from under Leech, stating, yeah, I'll produce you. But passes it off in some different ways. And while Winslow waits to hear what happens with the piece, he sneaks to Swan's home. He gets in. What's going on? He finds out that Swan is actually staging the piece and holding auditions. And this is where Leech meets Phoenix, played by Jessica Harper, who to Winslow has the voice of all voices, and only she can sing his work. However, Swan has different plans. And through a series of events, we will see him frame Winslow for drugs, steal Winslow's music, send him off to Sing Sing prison, and try to move on with his opening of Paradise, the Paradise. And now, when we have Winslow there, we will see him escape from prison and go back to get his revenge. But through a series of events in trying to get this revenge, Winslow will end up in a tragic accident that will leave him disfigured and voiceless. Vowing revenge, against Swan and his new theater, Leech sneaks into the Paradise, disguises himself, and calls himself the Phantom. However, when he tries to take revenge again, Swan sidesteps him and makes him a new deal. Says, you know what? Why don't you rewrite this piece more, and I will let Phoenix have the leading role and debut this for the Paradise. And equipping Winslow with the technology to speak at a piano in a closet off room, he goes to rewrite Faust. However, the deal that he makes with Swan, well, let's just say it is devilishly made. And there will be ramifications for this as we head towards opening night. It's an interesting film. You could make the argument. I talked a little bit about the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and stylistically, some of the sets, the play within a film, and the lavish makeup and costumes, which one inspired the other. I mean, it does capture the glam rock opera that was starting to become a thing in the mid 70s. Many other famed rock opera films would follow this one. We'd get The Who, Rocky Horror, Hair, and Grease. So you could maybe say De Palma was a little bit ahead of his time. And while the music is entertaining and infectious and performed with, this balls to the wall energy by the cast, it doesn't save this kind of mashed up, muddled plot. Basically, and if as I was going through the summary, you're like, why do I feel like I've heard this before? Basically, Phantom of the Paradise is a retelling of Phantom of the Opera with equal parts of Faust, and I didn't really get into this in the summary, but if you're familiar, Portrait of Dorian Gray, heavily seasoning the mixture with, yeah, I'm going to say it, a minor sprinkle of Valley of the Dolls. Which, again, while a film I haven't seen in its entirety, knowing the premise and the plot of what I do, there's a little bit of it in there. It's like De Palma borrowed elements from all of these and tried to mix it all together, but try to wrap up this very quick story. Winslow becomes the Phantom after his accident and causes even worse ones in order to see his music performed by his songbird Phoenix. And when Swan doesn't follow directives, all hell breaks loose. To say nothing of the Faustian deals being cut by Swan, who appears quite youthful for the age he truly is. It's these tropes that we see, and then we build to this kind of melodramatic finale, which, if you're familiar with these source materials, you may have an idea where it's going to go. But again, there's something to be said for the enjoyment in this, and it is in the musical performances. Now, from a production standpoint, Fisk does do an incredible job providing all of the settings necessary to tell this tale. Especially, I enjoyed two in particular: Paradise Theater by itself with its lavishness, and also Swan's very ornate home. The way that these things are designed and dressed is quite interesting to see. It almost feels like we should have been watching this happening on a stage as opposed to in a film. And I will have to say, the effects, the visual effects, the special effects, some of them a little cheesy, but for the time at which this film was made, not bad. And there's quite a jolting moment in the film with a character who's aptly named Beef, played by Garrett Graham, that allows for some good physical comedy. So I'll be honest. This is a film that I don't know if I will need to revisit again, but I am glad that Rewind gave me this chance to go back and look at this. And I will say, for what it is, it's a 3-star film. More of a two, but the music was enjoyable, and for the camp factor. So this isn't a film that falls into unintentional camp. You can tell it was going for camp. So it's about a 3. Now, if you are a Rocky Horror fan, this film is going to be right in your wheelhouse. I'm not a big Rocky Horror fan, so it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but Rocky fans, here's another film for you to double feature on your movie nights. So, if you would like to catch this Oscar nominated flick, it is available on all platforms for digital rental or purchase. It's not on any streamers. However, if you have the live TV add on attached to Hulu, you can stream it through there. All right. So there you have it. Thank you for joining me. If you like what you heard here, please click the button, subscribe to the channel, spread the word, help me get more people into the conversation. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd. Check out my website, cinephilemike.com, for additional exclusive print reviews of all the summer releases. If you are catching this on posting day, this episode was recorded about a week ago, so you are probably going to be able to find a lot of exciting coverage because I am covering the Edinburgh International Film Festival as a member of the press. So there's going to be hopefully some interviews, some great images, some great reviews of new upcoming films. It's going to be great. Happy watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.